Welcome, everyone. Today, we're diving into the fascinating world of history with a captivating comparison between two iconic cities, Rome and Constantinople. The Roman Empire was one of history's most influential civilizations, stretching across three continents at its height. Within this vast dominion, two cities, Rome and Constantinople, came to symbolize not only political authority, but also cultural and spiritual supremacy. Their rivalry was more than a contest for geographical prominence. It was a clash of identities, traditions, and visions for the empire's future. Rome, the original heart of imperial power, had been the center of governance, law, and culture for centuries. Its legacy was unparalleled, and its position seemed unshakable. However, in 330 CE, Emperor Constantine I established a new capital in the east at Byzantium, renaming it Constantinople. Strategically positioned between Europe and Asia, this city soon rose to prominence as the administrative hub of the Eastern Roman Empire, later called the Byzantine Empire by modern historians, though its inhabitants called it Romania and themselves Romans. What began as a pragmatic move to secure imperial governance eventually evolved into a deep-rooted rivalry. Rome clung to its historical prestige, while Constantinople asserted itself as the legitimate center of power. This study examines the origins, dimensions, and consequences of this rivalry, political, economic, cultural, and religious, that defined the late antique and medieval worlds. Let's jump right in. 1. The founding of Constantinople and the shift of power. The establishment of Constantinople was a watershed moment in Roman history. After emerging as sole ruler in 324 CE, Constantine recognized the limitations of governing an empire as vast as Rome's from a single western capital. Byzantium, a modest Greek city on the Bosporus Strait, offered unique advantages. It controlled the passage between the Black Sea and the Mediterranean and sat astride trade routes linking Europe and Asia. This location provided unparalleled strategic and economic benefits. Rome, by contrast, was increasingly vulnerable. It lay far from the empire's wealthiest provinces and closer to the frontiers, most threatened by invasions. Political instability and logistical challenges made the old capital less practical for defense and governance. In 330 CE, Constantine officially dedicated his new capital. Although an official name, Nova Roma, New Rome, was proclaimed, the city quickly became known as Constantinople. The emperor adorned it with imperial architecture forms, palaces, and churches designed to rival Rome. Monuments such as the Hippodrome, Imperial Fora, and early Christian basilicas transformed the site into a cosmopolitan capital. Not all viewed this favorably. Roman elites saw the shift as a betrayal of tradition, fearing the diminishing prestige of their city. The creation of Constantinople did not immediately divide the empire politically, but symbolically, it marked the beginning of a duality that would endure for centuries. 2. Political rivalry and governance. The founding of Constantinople formalized an administrative reality. The empire was too large to be ruled from a single city. Diocletian's earlier tetrarchy had already introduced the principle of multiple imperial centers. Constantine's move solidified the East as a permanent power base. Initially, Rome retained symbolic importance, particularly through its Senate. However, real authority shifted eastward. Emperors seldom visited Rome after Constantine, and by the 5th century, the Western imperial court had relocated first to Milan and then to Ravenna for security. Rome became more ceremonial than functional, a city of memory rather than power. Constantinople, by contrast, grew into a bureaucratic and diplomatic hub. Its imperial court, with its elaborate ceremonial and hierarchical structures, became the nerve center of governance. This allowed the Eastern Empire to endure for almost a millennium. After the fall of the West in 476 CE, both cities claimed to embody Roman legitimacy. Rome through antiquity and papal authority, Constantinople through its status as the emperor's residence. This dual claim created enduring ideological tension. 3. Economic rivalry. By the 4th century, economic gravity had already shifted eastward. The provinces under Constantinople's control, Egypt, Syria, and Asia Minor were wealthier, more urbanized, and agriculturally productive than the declining western regions. These eastern territories supplied grain, textiles, and luxury goods, making the East the economic powerhouse of the empire. Constantinople's location amplified this advantage. Positioned at the junction of major trade routes, it dominated commerce between Europe and Asia. Goods such as silks from China, spices from India, and grain from Egypt flowed into its markets, enriching the city and imperial treasury. Rome, meanwhile, faced economic decline. Population loss, agricultural disruption, and growing military expenses strained the West. The loss of North Africa to the Vandals in the 5th century severed its grain supply, accelerating Rome's urban decay. This imbalance reinforced the perception that Constantinople was the empire's future, while Rome was its past. 4. Cultural and social divergence. Rome and Constantinople came to represent distinct cultural identities. Rome remained Latin-speaking and aristocratic, clinging to ancient traditions even after Christianity's triumph. While paganism officially ended with Theodosius I's ban in 391 CE, remnants of the old senatorial elite preserved classical learning and values. Constantinople, however, became a center of Hellenic Roman synthesis. Greek gradually replaced Latin in administration, and Byzantine culture combined Roman law, Christian theology, and Greek intellectual heritage. This evolution gave birth to a civilization that saw itself as Roman but was culturally Greek. Art and architecture reflected this divergence. Rome's monuments, the Colosseum, Forum, and Pantheon, evoked imperial grandeur of the past. Constantinople dazzled with innovations like the Hagia Sophia, a symbol of both imperial and Christian majesty. Imperial ceremonies, mosaics, and theological scholarship made the city the intellectual and artistic capital of the Eastern Mediterranean. Rome viewed Constantinople as an upstart, while Constantinople regarded Rome a relic, attitudes that foreshadowed deeper divisions. 5. Religious rivalry and the Great Schism. Religion turned this rivalry into a spiritual contest. As Christianity unified the empire, ecclesiastical authority mirrored political geography. The Bishop of Rome claimed primacy as successor of St. Peter, while the Patriarch of Constantinople asserted influence as leader of the imperial church. Initially cooperative, relations deteriorated over issues of doctrine, liturgy, and jurisdiction. Rome promoted papal supremacy. Constantinople emphasized conciliar governance and the pentarchy. The Filioque clause, debates on clerical celibacy, and differing practices such as leaven versus unleavened bread in the Eucharist deepened divisions. Political developments worsened tensions. The coronation of Charlemagne as emperor in 800 CE challenged Byzantine claims to universal authority. The rivalry climaxed in 1054 when papal and patriarchal legates excommunicated each other. Though often called the Great Schism, this act was symbolic. The real separation hardened after the Fourth Crusade's sack of Constantinople in 1204, an event that shattered any hope of reunion. 6. Military and strategic realities. Geography sealed the contrasting destinies of the two cities. Rome, poorly fortified and exposed to northern invasions, suffered repeated sackings by the Visigoths in 410, Vandals in 455, and during the Gothic Wars in the 6th century. Its vulnerability underscored the declining power of the Western Empire. Constantinople, in contrast, was a fortress city. Surrounded by water and fortified by the Theodosian walls, it withstood sieges by Persians, Arabs, Bulgars, and Rus for centuries. Its fall did not come until 1453, nearly 1,000 years after Rome's decline, testimony to its strategic genius. 7. The fall of the West and Byzantine ascendancy. The Western Roman Empire collapsed in 476 CE when Odoacer deposed Romulus Augustulus. Rome lost its imperial role but retained immense religious authority as the papal seat. The Byzantine Empire, ruling from Constantinople, carried the Roman legacy forward in law, governance, and culture. Justinian's Corpus Juris Civilis and the splendor of Byzantine art testified to this continuity. Even as the Byzantines attempted to reconquer Italy under Justinian, Rome's role became symbolic, while Constantinople remained the political center of the Roman world. 8. Legacy of the rivalry. This rivalry shaped the medieval world. It drove the fragmentation of Christianity, the cultural divergence between Latin West and Greek East, and competing concepts of imperial authority. Rome's legacy endured through the papacy and the Holy Roman Empire, while Constantinople's influence shaped Orthodox Christianity and Slavic culture. After 1453, Moscow embraced the idea of being the Third Rome, claiming inheritance of Byzantine tradition. Ultimately, this was not merely a geographic contest, but a debate over what it meant to be Roman, a question that echoed for centuries. Thank you for joining me on this journey. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to follow for more amazing insights.